Hello, Indivisibles, and welcome to a very rare emergency Facebook Live event at the national headquarters of Indivisible here in Washington, D.C. I'm really happy to be joining you tonight, even though it's a little bit of a scary time, but we're really happy to be in this fight with you all. I'm Ezra Levin. I'm co-executive director of Indivisible. I oversee our policy and communication shops. I'm joined with...
Hi, I'm Leah Greenberg. I'm also co-executive director, and I oversee our organizing and political teams.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Beavers, and I'm our foreign policy manager here.
Great. And so we've called this emergency meeting tonight for one clear reason, because we think that it is quite possible that Trump fires Rod Rosenstein imminently. It could happen quite soon. And so we wanted to take this moment to go over what is the plan and to answer any questions you have. So to make clear, this should be as interactive as possible. We're going to present a little bit on what that plan is, what the current state of affairs is, and then we're going to ask you to ask us questions so we can get into it. So you can ask questions right now, just by putting them in the comment section of the Facebook Live feed here. So feel free to just type them in. We've got a team that's going through and we'll post them for us, and after we do our presentations, we'll get to your questions and answer them directly. So just put them right there in the Facebook Live feed. The other thing that you can do right now, and we really need you to do this, is just click the share button on the Facebook Live. We need as many people involved in this as possible. The only way we're going to be able to win is if there is a massive pushback around the country, and that starts with you. So one click is an easy first step. It's not the only step. We're going to ask you to do more, but it's the first step, and you can do it right now. So please just click the share button. Okay, now that you've clicked share, let's jump into it. I'll just provide a little bit of an opening about where we got, how we got here. We're going to hear a lot more from Elizabeth and Leah about what you can do now, but just a little bit of history. How did we get to this point where we are today? Back last May, Trump fired, in a clear example of obstruction of justice, Comey. And when he fired Comey, there was a massive uprising. It was immediate. People were shocked that Trump had fired somebody. In the way this went down, it was just unimaginable at the time. And we heard not just from Democratic circles, not just from activists, but people all over the country, conservatives, liberals, moderates, independents, people were shocked that he had done this. And as a result of that immediate backlash that happened, what we got was the appointment of Mueller to carry out this investigation. And that was a big victory. We had people from every end of the spectrum, including people like Newt Gingrich, saying this Republican who Trump has appointed, he has the credibility to carry this out, and we're going to trust him to do this job. We heard that from all sectors. We can put this to rest. There's no more, we don't have to be worried about this. Trump did the right thing, and he appointed this investigator, so we can all sleep easy. So that's where we have been for the past several months. We have had this investigation going forward, and it hasn't just been going quietly in the background. It's produced several results. What we've seen as the result of this investigation is several indictments, including of some of the closest affiliates of the Trump administration and the Trump campaign that there are. So it's been quite productive, and it is ongoing. It is ongoing. And then there have been some big developments most recently in the last week. So most recently, we saw the raiding of Trump's personal lawyer's office just last week. And right after that, we got a lot of tweets, as so often happens. The president started tweeting about how upset he was with this, and then we started hearing from other sectors, from people who are close to President Trump, that this was just a bridge too far, that he was really upset with exactly what was going on with this investigation, and he was worried about where it was headed. And so just to make clear, we have been tracking this issue for months. Going back to when Comey was originally fired, we started tracking exactly where was this investigation going, how can we support you in making your voice heard and ensuring that American democracy is not threatened by President Trump's actions. And we take our role as a strategic advisor really seriously for the movement. The reason why Elizabeth has been focusing on this issue is because we know it is really important. We know that this is a serious threat to American democracy, and we want to empower you when you have leverage to make that difference. And so in tracking this week after week and month after month, we've been answering your questions, we've been putting out explainers, we've been preparing for any moment when there might be leverage, when there might be a danger that Trump would actually threaten Mueller or his boss, Rosenstein. And now we're at that moment. This is why we're calling this emergency live. So, Elizabeth, do you want to talk a little bit about what are we hearing now? What has changed? What's new? And what's the plan?
Yep. Thanks so much, Ezra. Yeah, and thank you to all of you for joining us for your relentless work you've already been doing. We already know that so many of our indivisible groups are on Democracy Watch 24/7. You all have been making sure that your members of Congress know how inexcusable it is for Trump to threaten the investigation and to obstruct justice. So I do want to share the latest that we've been hearing. As Ezra said, we've been tracking this for months. We've been finding any possible strategic path forward. And we've promised you before that anytime there is a strategic path forward, anytime there's a point of leverage, anytime there's a crisis moment, we will be the first ones out of the gate to let you know. And so that's what we're doing. So look, here's what we're hearing. I will tell you that the mood in Washington is really tense. I have been on the Hill just about all day trying to check in with people, trying to find out what's going on. I don't know that I've ever seen people quite so worried. And that's because there's a lot of rumors swirling. There's already been some public reporting. There's been a lot of conversations happening that Trump might be preparing to fire Rod Rosenstein. And just as a reminder, Rosenstein is Mueller's boss, basically. Special Counsel Mueller has been appointed as an independent counsel, basically, to do this investigation. And normally the Attorney General would supervise a special counsel. But in this particular case, as you all know, Jeff Sessions had to recuse himself because of the role that he played in the Trump campaign. He would basically be helping to investigate himself, and that's a giant conflict of interest. So he recused himself. So the acting Attorney General, or the second person down, which is the Deputy Attorney General, that was Rod Rosenstein. And so he was seen as somebody who would help keep the investigation independent and impartial. And so far, he's been delivering on that. He's been making sure that Mueller can perform his job. He's been making sure he has the resources he needed. The raid that happened on Trump's personal attorney, Mueller was able to work through Rosenstein to make sure that that was referred to the correct prosecutor and that all the approvals that were needed to carry that forward happened. So Rosenstein, I think Trump sees him as being not on Trump's side or being on Mueller's side and being a threat to Trump's existence and as president. And of course, that's probably true, right? We see Mueller getting closer and closer to the truth and Trump getting more and more scared. And so what we have been saying for months is that there are a number of red lines that Trump could cross to impede the investigation and prevent it from being carried forward in a fair manner. And just to review, those red lines are, number one, obviously, he could just fire Mueller himself. That would be an extremely obvious red line and a clear obstruction of justice. But firing Rosenstein accomplishes the same goal. If Trump is looking to put someone in power, put someone in charge of this investigation who will be friendly to Trump, remember he pressured Comey to give all these allegiance pledges to him to promise that he was going to be loyal to him. It makes sense that he's also looking for that in this investigation. That's why it's such a big deal for him to fire Rod Rosenstein, because it would mean that Trump is trying to take away the impartiality of Mueller's investigation and possibly to try to put someone over the investigation who will obstruct it and who will put roadblocks in the way, who will make it difficult for Mueller to get what he needs to do the job. So that's red line number two. Red line number three, just to review, is if Trump issues blanket pardons of key witnesses. Pardoning witnesses takes a lot out of the calculus in terms of getting different deals and getting to the truth and getting the correct testimony, all the things that Mueller needs to do his job. So those are three red lines that we have clearly established would trigger a mass mobilization. And so the reason we want to meet with you all tonight, we do want to convey these rumors feel different this time. We've all heard rumors the entire time Trump is president. There's always kind of stories floating about what he might do or what he might not do. But the details feel solid enough that we're concerned, and we're really concerned and we're scared. And so, but out of a moment of fear comes a moment of power, because we recognize that there's something we can do, right? We don't have to just sit back and be worried about this. We have a full plan and we're going to carry it out. So I just want to review what we have already been planning to do, what we will be planning to do, and what you all can expect going forward as we fight in this together. So So number one, you probably already know, you're probably already ready. We have been joining with incredible partners at TrumpIsNotAboveTheLaw.org. We've partnered with Move On, with Public Citizen, with Common Cause, with PFAW, with all kinds of incredible partners who have been mobilizing events, who have been helping to recruit people to host events. Go there now. If you haven't yet committed to an event near you, make sure to do that. So that's number one. Right after this firing would occur, we would take to the streets peacefully to say Trump is not above the law. But the important question is what happens next? What are we going to do after that mobilization, after we've demonstrated just how completely unacceptable this is? We need to tell Congress that it should be a red line for them as well. So we normally wouldn't do this. We have already put out the toolkit that we would share. We've already put out the resource and the asks that we would do in that contingency, in that emergency moment. And we do that just so you all are ready and so that you can have it. If you're going to be heading to a mobilization soon, you know exactly what the asks are, you know exactly what happens next. So what we would want to do after the mobilization, remember, first up is the mobilization with our partners. Then after that, in the days that come, we want to increasingly build in-district pressure, telling Congress this is their red line too. They have to draw that line in the sand. And so what we would be asking members of Congress to do, we would absolutely demand that obstruction of justice hearings must begin immediately. And just to remind you, that is the first step towards impeachment. Indivisible has already been on the record calling for impeachment since the Comey firing. We're re-upping that call again. We need obstruction of justice hearings to go forward. So on the Senate side, there's a specific kind of leverage that we can use. Senators, even when you don't have agenda-setting power, even when you're not in the majority, they have an ability, even just one senator has actually a lot of power to grind Senate proceedings to a halt. And that's because a lot of times in order to get around different rules and sort of archaic procedures about how to move through the Senate, they have to get what's called unanimous consent. Every senator basically has to consent to move forward and to waive certain rules. If even a single senator denies unanimous consent, it gums up the works, it slows things down, it requires that things get stretched out. So basically what we're asking senators to do is to hold up, vote down. I'll say that again, hold up, vote down. That is what the Senate has to do. They have to hold up proceedings. That means deny any unanimous consent requests. And number two, vote down. Oppose every Trump nominee from going forward. And this is all until those obstruction of justice hearings begin. Senators might not be able to absolutely force this investigation to happen, but they can certainly make it a lot harder not to do it by holding up, voting down. So that's what we're going to be pushing. That's what we're asking members of Congress to do. This is their time to be bold. This is their time to ask for the big things. This is the time to show that in order to protect our democracy, they have to use every tool in their toolbox to use the leverage they have. So that's what's in the resource. We're sharing it with you. It is also on indivisible.org. And so as you do those events in district, you take those asks, you take the toolkit. We've got it all laid out for you in this resource, and go in district. After the firing happens, after your mass mobilization, this is what you do in district. And we'll keep ramping up, escalating in district pressure until these obstruction of justice hearings begin. So that's the current plan. We're laying it out. We look forward to hearing questions from you all, how we can clarify that, and I'll turn it over to Leah next.
Great. Thank you for that excellent summation of where we are, what we can do, what we're asking for. I'm just going to quickly summarize it one more time, and then we're going to go to questions. So 3 quick steps that you can take right now to get prepared. First, text LINE, LINE, to 97779. That's LINE to 97779. That is how we will be sending out rapid response updates, action items, just keeping you posted as this is unfolding. This is a fast-moving situation, and we want to make sure that we're in touch as events are developing. Second, make plans to attend an emergency demonstration. As Elizabeth mentioned, there are hundreds of these all over the country. You can find your local one at TrumpIsNotAboveTheLaw.org. Just get ready for that mobilization, because it's going to be so important to have an immediate show of force if this does happen. And third, check out our emergency toolkit. It should be posted in the comments here, and it should be on indivisible.org as well. Our emergency toolkit is going over what are we asking for, what are we going to do as we're building on that first mobilization, as we're making sure that the energy stays, and as we're making sure that Congress doesn't get off the hook for their response to this. And just as a reminder, if you have questions, you can type those comments or questions into the comment box, and we'll be taking those live now. And
on to questions.
And on to the questions. All right, the first question is from Julie. And Julie asks, are you coordinating your response with Nobody is Above the Law Rapid Response?
And it's trumpisnotabovethelawcom, and absolutely. So there are...
.org.
.org. Trumpisnotabovethelawcom.org. Thank you. So there are, to be clear, Indivisible and you are not alone in this fight. There is really a bipartisan, large number of groups who have come together to push against this attack on American democracy. Folks like Move On, folks like Public Citizen, folks like Center for American Progress, Tom Steyer, and others who are all coming together to say, look, this is, like Leah and Elizabeth said, this is a red line. This is clear. It shouldn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. As long as you care about American democracy, you should recognize that this is something that we need to join together to push against. So absolutely, we are coordinating with them on the first day of action, and we all need to be working together on that first day of action and on every action going forward. What worked to get Mueller appointed originally was not just 1 hour of action or 1 day of action. It was sustained. It was blowback immediately against Comey being fired, and then sustained over the period of several days. That's what we need again. And this is the biggest crisis that we faced to American democracy since Trump got elected. So we need that now. This is the time. We don't do these kind of emergency Facebook Live events often. We're doing it now because we think the threat is just that severe.
All right. Alexandra asks, who is the woman on the left?
Oh, great question.
Good question.
Oh, she's been on a lot of Facebook Lives, though. So you must be new to Facebook Lives with us.
I'm Elizabeth. I am our foreign policy manager, and I handle national security foreign policy issues. So obviously, I'm tracking really closely the Russia investigation and any attempts by Trump to obstruct justice, because that is a national security threat, and that's something that raises the Trump threat level even further. So very happy to meet you, Alexandra, and everyone else who I'm meeting for the first time.
And just so you know, so Elizabeth is writing, or the lead author of many of the documents that we have relating to the investigation here. She's also the one that's going up on Capitol Hill and talking to the offices who are really in the know, directly involved in this. She's also the person who is representing us in the big national coalition meetings that are taking place on a regular basis. So the reason why she's here is she's the one that knows everything on this panel. So please, we'll answer as many questions as we can. Elizabeth is the real expert here. And so we're incredibly lucky to have her on the team helping lead Indivisible National through this to provide support to you all to have impact on the ground. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Mary asks, what are the actions at district offices other than showing up with signs? Great question.
Yeah.
Great question. So please do take a look at our emergency toolkit. This is exactly, it kind of walks through what we think would have the most impact when you show up to district offices. You know, the best thing you can do is go inside and meet with them. We want people to go inside. If it's a moment when their member of Congress is there, they're on recess, they're at home during a work period, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, you can talk to a staffer. You make that ask. You ask that member of Congress to publicly commit to obstruction of justice hearings, and for senators to hold up vote down until that happens. So one thing that is a really great tactic that you can use when you do these in-district visits is you can remind them of their oath of office. And we have included the oath of office in the toolkit, so you can have it. You can make it into a poster, you can leave it with the office, you can record yourself repeating the oath of office, you can repeat it back to the staffer. If you do get video of yourselves reclaiming the oath of office, restating it, please tag us and we'll amplify it. We want to make sure that we're sharing that out. And again, all these actions are if Trump actually crosses a red line, if he actually fires Rod Rosenstein after the big mobilization. No, great question. It always is most impactful. And I know you all know this because you've all read the Indivisible Guide, but if you can go inside and you can talk and you can tell them what you want, that is the thing that will have the most impact.
And just to be clear, so every single member, I was looking this up, every single, and I know it's in our toolkit, every single member of the House of Representatives, every single member of the U.S. Senate, when they become members, when they come into the new Congress, they have to take this oath. And it's very explicit. It is. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. What we are asking of these senators, what we are asking of these members of the House of Representatives is just what they solemnly swore to do, which is protect the country from domestic and foreign threats. This is their job, whether they are a Republican, an independent, or a Democrat, and reminding them of that oath is a powerful statement that you as a constituent can make in this moment. It's not the only thing you can do, but it is something concrete that you can do, and it can build towards further actions to actually put pressure on them to do their job.
All right. Monica asks, if he fires Rod, how much time do we have to get Senate legislation to make firing Mueller more difficult? Elizabeth?
Yes, great question. So there is now bipartisan legislation that's in the Senate Judiciary Committee that is S-2644 that's led by Senators Lindsey Graham and Cory Booker. Not a lot of bills with the two of them co-leading together. So it's a really great bipartisan show that this is something that matters. It's really important. So much rests in the hands of leadership, right? Chuck Grassley is the head of the Judiciary Committee. Mitch McConnell remains the leader of the Senate. And so in terms of things moving forward, that would still basically be in their hands. But, in terms of, senators being able to hold up, vote down, grind things to a halt, until these things move forward, there's a point of leverage there for senators. For example, they could say, we're not moving a Rosenstein replacement forward until you pass this legislation. It creates a leverage point that senators can use, and so we would definitely be urging senators to support that bill, and that actually is in the emergency toolkit. So thanks so much for flagging that.
All right. Mark asks, why wait for him to be fired? Mobilize now to get Congress to vote for the bill that was just introduced.
And there were 2 question marks and 2 exclamation points.
Yes. Seriously.
Feels very strongly about this, Mark, as we do.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's one that we have been discussing. Look, we are very concerned, and we have been very concerned. And a lot of the times when we're concerned, the first thing we want to do is just focus intently on that thing. But we have been taking really seriously our commitment to all of you to identify when we have a point of leverage, when we actually have something we can impact, and when there's a strategic path forward. As I just mentioned, that bill that you mentioned, right? So, and just to review, what this bill does is it adds a layer of judicial review to a Mueller firing. It sort of codifies regulations and lets a court review whether those regulations have been met in order for Mueller to be fired. So it adds just kind of an extra layer of protection to Mueller. It's a great bill, and we support it. But the reason that we haven't been doing that is because that is not how bills move forward in Congress. Calls matter, pressure matters, but it matters at a moment when senators and members of Congress actually are about to have to take a vote on something. They have to decide really imminently what they're going to do, or there's a point of leverage. There's something that's being held up that won't move forward until they do this. Simply getting calls at a time when neither of those things are true are not enough to move things forward when we don't have agenda-setting power. So we are supportive of this bill. We know that the Judiciary Committee is trying to take it up for markup sometime soon. That's great. We keep pushing that. Especially if you have senators who are on Judiciary Committee, it's always great for them to hear that you care about these bills and you want them to move forward. But we would not be telling you the truth if we told you that that was the most strategic path forward, absent this sort of leverage point, absent this crisis. And so that is why this emergency toolkit is for a post-crisis moment. And you guys might have more you want to say about that.
Sure. I'll just add a quick...
Yeah. No, as a former congressional staffer, Leah, what do you think?
I'll just add a quick thought. The thing about Congress is that in general, things don't move unless the leader of the majority party wants them to move. And so the problem with trying to affirmatively move a piece of legislation is that you have someone like Senator McConnell who is flat out not interested in having that come to the floor. So what we're trying to do right now when we're talking about emergency response is talk about how do you mobilize a critical core of Republicans to really split up the caucus, to put the pressure on? How do you make Democrats put as much pressure as possible on? How do they make sure that there's no such thing as business as usual in the event of a crisis? Just to go back to Elizabeth's point, there are, in addition to Rosenstein's replacement, who might potentially come up, there are also cabinet nominees moving forward. There's Mike Pompeo for Secretary of State. Gina Haspel for CIA. There's no reason that anyone should be voting for them to begin with, but there is absolutely no reason that you should be confirming Trump's cabinet nominees when he is he is creating a constitutional crisis.
And so just to underline a point that you made, if you've got a Democrat as your representative or senator, you've got a job to do. If you have a Republican as your senator or representative, you've got a job to do. If you've got an independent as your representative or senator, you've got a job to do. There is something, regardless of what party your representative or senator belongs to in Congress, there's something they can do about this. For the Democrats, they can not treat this as business as usual, as you're saying. They can slow everything down. They can refuse to vote for any nominees. And for Republicans, they need to actually do their job to protect America from threats, foreign and domestic. They need to actually act as an independent check on this administration. They have the power to do that. They have said this already. Folks like Grassley and others have said that they will do this. They need to do their job. And so regardless of where you are in America watching this right now, from the most liberal state to the most conservative, there's something that you should be doing to make your voice heard in your own state or district.
Particularly after there's a crisis, and if Trump does indeed fire Rosenstein.
Yep, because there's this leverage. Yeah, to your point, that there shifts. It shifts how this legislation will be perceived within Congress. There's this new opportunity, and leverage is important in Congress, as you said.
All right. Anne asks, is there anything that Americans abroad should be doing? That's a great question.
Yeah, we used to get that question all the time around the healthcare fight and the tax fight. Yeah.
It's a great question. Mm-hmm. You still have an elected official, so whether when you live abroad, you still have some registration or some address in the United States. You're registered to vote somewhere. You can call that person.
Yeah, and there, as we said, post-crisis, there is a moment there for kind of like a visible show of support, and to see that Americans, whether you're here in the country or you're not, want Congress to do their job and uphold their oath of office. And so we will still be amplifying any recordings of people restating that oath of office. If you go to an embassy and do that, if you do it wherever you are, we will amplify that if you tag us on social media. Yes, so that is still something we can amplify.
I personally love that idea. If you're not in the country, but and you can't participate in a TrumpIsNotAboveTheLaw.org or .com protest. Is it .com?
It's org.
Darn, I corrected myself wrong. TrumpIsNotAboveTheLaw.org. If you can't participate that in country in your actual state or district, by all means get together other folks who are in the same situation and go to the embassy and register that event. We would love to see that. We would love to see folks across not just the country but across the world who are joining in and recognizing that this is just far beyond the pale, and that we've got to step up and prevent this threat to American democracy from happening.
Great. Patricia asks, what can people do if they can't march? My husband is disabled, but we both want to assist. Great question.
Yeah, it's a terrific question. I can take a first stab at it, and you all might have other thoughts, but as we noted, this is not a single moment. It's not a single action. There's such a necessary time after a crisis for escalated pressure and for it to keep building. And so we are setting up a number of tools for a number of ways to get involved. There's a phone line you can call that will immediately patch you through to your members of Congress, so you can very easily make these asks. Hopefully, an in-district office is closer to you, and if you're able to go and visit, that's great. But if you need to call them, that works too. There's a number of tactics, and of course, you can, I don't know if you're on social media, but if you can amplify the actions that are happening and make sure other people know about them, and if other people want to attend, share it with them. That's another great thing you can do, is help recruit.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, Barbara asks, in your opinions, is it better to have really huge regional protests or to have multiple smaller ones that are all over the place? Oh, that's a great question.
So one thought on this. So I worked for a member of Congress, great member of Congress, who represented several counties in Texas. It was a progressive from Texas. And he had both a big city county and then a whole bunch of counties that were out in rural areas. And I will say, we paid attention to what happened in the big city, but protests and other events were much more common there because there were a ton of people. And events out in the more rural districts where there's a smaller population were a lot actually less common. So I would say both are good. It's good to have a big event in the city center. By all means, make that happen. But if it's just you and 10 friends out in a more rural county going to a district office of a member of Congress or a senator out there, that's really powerful because it rarely happens. So So they will take note. They're like, oh my gosh, these folks out here where it's a much smaller population and they're even talking to us about it, that's really important. So I wouldn't dismiss the impact of really a handful of folks showing up in person at a district office. It actually can have big impact. Other thoughts?
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Great. All right. Solomon asks, what do you recommend those of us living in D.C. with no voting representatives do?
Is that
I think that's the full
with
question.
no...
With no congressional representatives do to make our voices heard aside from protesting? That's a great question. And it's a one that frustrates us, too, because we live in
We-
D.C.
We don't have representation either.
Yeah, and it's not cool. So that's a great question.
Yeah, it is. I'm happy to take a first stab at this
Sure.
one as well. Sure. So absolutely, yeah, I love that. You're already saying you're going to show up to these events. That visible solidarity is so important, especially right here where every member of Congress is, right here in D.C. And so that's fantastic. If you do have friends, family, relatives, other people who do live in another place, in another state where they have senators who can do these things, encouraging them to do this, making sure people have that emergency toolkit, making sure people have registered their in-district event, making sure that, again, the other people who live in places where they have elected representation, which, we're all jealous of them as well, are making these phone calls and showing up to those in-district events. That's what I would say, I think, is where we can all be the best value add here in D.C.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
And there will, so again, if you go to trumpisnotabovethelaw.org, which I got, trumpisnotabovethelaw.org, there will be DC events in the DMV, so you will be able to participate here too. And if you text LINE, as in red line to 97779, line to 97779, you'll get updates from us. So we will give you ways to take action. So you are not alone here. There are a ton of people here who are in the same boat, and we all want to have an impact here. So by all means, there are ways to plug in. Okay, I think we are out of time, and we're just so you know.
We've got one more comment.
Oh,
from
we do.
Prilla.
Okay, yeah.
Prilla says, "Say one more time what we're asking for, which is hold up, vote down."
Yeah.
That's
What do
hold
they
up.
mean?
What do we mean?
Yeah.
Hold up all Senate proceedings and vote down all Trump nominations. So she says that should be trending on Twitter. We totally agree. Let's do that. I think that is it for us tonight. Would like to close by reminding folks that we have this emergency toolkit available now. It's in the comments. It's also on indivisible.org. As Ezra mentioned, you can text line to 97779. Sorry,
Yeah.
3 sevens. I knew
Yeah.
I was not going to get that every time.
Yeah.
And then you are going to be getting the latest updates as news is breaking from us on what's going on and how you can make your voice heard. And remember to go to trumpisnotabovethelaw.org to check out where you can mobilize in the event that Rosenstein is fired.
And just to underline, we were in this position before. Comey was fired, and it looked hopeless. It looked like there was nothing that could work, and then everybody made their voice heard. People across the country stood up and made their voice heard. That's how we got Mueller. Things are not hopeless now. We have power. Together, if we stand up and act in this moment, we can change things. We can actually protect American democracy. The only way that will work, though, is if we stand up and act together. So thanks for being with us tonight. Thanks for jumping into these resources. Thanks for clicking the share button right now on the Facebook Live and getting everybody together. Thanks for signing up for these alerts. And we're going to win. We're going to do this together. We're going to win.